Motorcycle dealerships are overflowing with unsold bikes. Once praised, these 14 models are now collecting dust and crashing in value. In 2025, they've become some of the worst investments on two wheels, and if you're not careful, you could end up riding straight into a money pit. Number 14. Honda CB 1100EX. This motorcycle was built as a throwback to the golden age of Japanese muscle bikes, a tribute to the legendary CB line that ruled American roads in the 1970s. With its upright posture, chrome accents, and air-cooled charm, the CB 1100EX looked like it had everything going for it. But in 2025, it's clear this retro machine has lost its place in the modern market. At the core of this Honda is an air-cooled inline-4 engine displacing 1,148 cubic centimeters. It produces 89 horsepower and 69 pound-feet of torque, respectable figures on paper. However, the weight tips in at 576 pounds, and that's before loading up with gear or a passenger. Despite its classic looks, it's far from nimble. The CB 1100EX lacks modern necessities that today's riders expect. There are no ride modes, no advanced safety systems like cornering anti-lock brakes, and the display is a dated analog unit that offers little information. Fuel economy hovers around 35 miles per gallon, which is disappointing given its displacement and power output. While it might appeal to nostalgic riders or collectors, most buyers today are looking for bikes that offer performance, tech, and efficiency in one package. This model delivers on none of those fronts. As a result, dealerships are finding it harder and harder to move them off the showroom floor. For the average cruiser buyer in 2025, the CB 1100EX is simply not worth the investment. And if you think a classic Honda is struggling, wait until you see what's happening to Triumph's retro lineup. Number 13. Triumph Bonneville Bobber. It was once the poster child for factory-built custom style. Low seat, wide bars, minimalist fenders, and a hardtail-inspired frame, this bike was aimed squarely at riders chasing that vintage bobber aesthetic without the hassle of building their own. And for a few years, it worked. But the shine is worn off in 2025. This Triumph packs a liquid-cooled parallel twin engine displacing 1,200 cubic centimeters, putting out 77 horsepower and 78 pound-feet of torque. At 453 pounds, it's not overly heavy, but it's not especially agile either, especially when compared to modern naked bikes. Despite its throwback styling, the Bobber lacks many features that today's buyers expect, especially in this price range. There are no ride modes, no cornering, anti-lock braking system, no connectivity options, and the dashboard is a basic analog speedometer with limited readouts. Combine that with a solo seat, limited practicality, and awkward ergonomics for longer rides, and it quickly becomes clear this is a niche machine. The price, when new, hovers around $13,500, premium territory for a bike that's more about looks than function. And the used market isn't being kind to it either. Riders today want comfort, tech, and performance. The Bobber simply doesn't deliver enough of any of those. But the Bonneville isn't the only retro flop. This next cruiser was supposed to dominate the entry-level market. We dug through dealer stock reports and analyzed resale trends, so you don't make a $10,000 mistake. If that saved you time or money, hit subscribe and tell us in the comments which bike shocked you most. Number 12. Kawasaki Vulcan S. When a major Japanese manufacturer set out to build the most beginner-friendly cruiser on the market, expectations were high, and at first it looked like they nailed it. Kawasaki even created a special system called ErgoFit, which allowed buyers to adjust foot pegs, handlebars, and seats for the perfect riding position. But nearly a decade later, the Vulcan S feels like a relic of another era. Powering the Vulcan is a liquid-cooled parallel twin engine displacing 649 cubic centimeters, producing 61 horsepower and 46 pound-feet of torque. The weight clocks in at just over 500 pounds. It's manageable, but far from featherweight. Where the Vulcan S really shows its age is in its lack of modern features. There are no ride modes, no traction control, no cornering anti-lock braking system, and the instrument cluster is an old-school analog tachometer with a small digital screen for fuel and trip info. For a bike aimed at newer riders, the lack of safety and tech is a major letdown. When new, the Vulcan S carried a price tag close to $8,500 out the door. In 2025, it's competing with bikes like the Honda Rebel and even budget-friendly models from brands like Benelli that offer more features for less money. It doesn't help that resale values are dropping fast, with used Vulcans struggling to fetch even $4,000 on the market. And if you think beginner cruisers have it bad, wait until you see what happened to one of BMW's boldest heavyweight bets. Number 11. BMW R18. BMW thought they could muscle into the American cruiser scene by blending retro charm with brute force. But in 2025, the R18 has become a cautionary tale. At the heart of this machine is a massive 1,802 cubic centimeter boxer engine producing 91 horsepower and 116 pound-feet of torque. It sounds impressive until you realize the entire bike weighs in at a jaw-dropping 891 pounds. That kind of bulk makes it a nightmare to maneuver in traffic, on hills, or even in your garage. It's not just the weight. The riding position is stretched, the suspension is stiff, and the ground clearance is low. It scrapes easily on corners, and the sheer size makes even casual rides feel like a chore. The brakes, while solid on paper, struggle to rein in all that mass, especially when fully loaded with luggage or a passenger. Comfort suffers too, especially on longer hauls where the vibrations start creeping in. Add a price tag of $17,500 and it becomes clear. This isn't a working man's cruiser. The styling, though dripping in chrome, feels more show than go. Younger riders don't care about heritage throwbacks, and the older Harley crowd isn't switching brands. Forums are packed with frustrated owners trying to unload these bikes, and the used market is all but frozen. The R18 was supposed to be a legacy builder. Instead, it's an overbuilt cruiser that's been left behind. Speaking of overbuilt machines, this next sport tourer was supposed to be a dream. Instead, it's a nightmare. Number 10. KTM 1290 Super Duke GT. On paper, the 1290 Super Duke GT looked like the perfect motorcycle. A sport tourer with track-level speed, long-distance comfort, and enough tech to make a fighter jet jealous. At the heart of the GT is a liquid-cooled V-twin engine displacing 1,290 cubic centimeters. It pumps out 175 horsepower and 94 pound-feet of torque. That kind of power should make this a monster on the road, but in practice, the GT has become one of the biggest letdowns of the decade. First off, the reliability issues are no joke. Riders have reported electrical glitches, overheating, and clutch problems, often within the first few thousand miles. The semi-active suspension, while impressive in theory, tends to malfunction more often than it delivers smooth handling. And the cornering anti-lock braking system and quick shifter feel more like expensive gimmicks than real assets. It's a bike that tries to be everything and ends up falling short everywhere. Weighing 518 pounds, the chassis feels top-heavy when fully loaded. Comfort is inconsistent, with a seat that wears on you after just a couple of hours. Maintenance costs are brutal thanks to premium European parts and labor, and even basic services can cost a fortune. With a retail price of $20,000, riders expected perfection. What they got was a garage queen that spends more time in the shop than on the road. And now, from premium pain to budget heartbreak, this Honda Cruiser is crashing harder than ever. Number 9. Honda Shadow Phantom. For years, the Shadow Phantom held a solid spot in the cruiser market, but in 2025, it's become one of the most outdated motorcycles you can buy. This Honda features a liquid-cooled V-twin engine displacing 745 cubic centimeters, producing just 44 horsepower and 47 pound-feet of torque. The Phantom weighs 549 pounds and rides on a basic dual-shock rear suspension with a conventional telescopic fork up front. The ride quality is fine for short trips, but the lack of adjustability and damping control makes longer rides uncomfortable. The brakes are single-disc units and the stopping power feels underwhelming, especially at highway speeds. What makes matters worse is how little has changed since the model launched back in 2010. The analog gauge cluster looks dated, There are no ride modes, no digital dash, and no cornering safety features. Even the styling, once praised for its blacked-out look, now feels tired in a market filled with more refined and customizable options. And with a price hovering around $7,500, buyers expect more than nostalgia. The Phantom used to be a safe bet. Now it's just an old-school cruiser that never evolved, and riders have moved on. But that's not the only Honda struggling. One of their oldest names in touring is starting to fade fast. Number 8. Honda Goldwing. Once considered the undisputed king of touring motorcycles, the base model of the Honda Goldwing has now become a symbol of everything the modern rider wants to avoid. In 2025, buyers are walking away from this machine not because it lacks comfort or performance, but because it's become bloated, outdated, and overpriced in a rapidly changing market. The engine is a liquid-cooled flat 6 displacing 1,800 cubic centimeters. It produces 120 horsepower and 114 pound-feet of torque. Those numbers should impress, but the weight of the Goldwing, tipping the scales at 867 pounds, makes it feel more like a land yacht than a touring motorcycle. Paired with its dual wishbone front suspension, electronically adjustable preload, and linked braking system with anti-lock braking, the handling is soft but never nimble. Comfort has always been the bike's strongest selling point, and it still delivers with heated seats, adjustable windscreen, and a wide saddle that can carry rider and passenger for hours. But the lack of meaningful tech improvements in the base version, combined with its intimidating size and a starting price of $24,700, has driven away new and younger buyers who want efficiency and agility over bulk. Even loyal Goldwing fans are downsizing to lighter options like the Yamaha Tracer 9 GT or opting for adventure tourers with more utility. The Goldwing's former prestige simply doesn't carry the weight it used to. Not in 2025. And from the touring heavyweight, we move to a mid-cruiser that once dominated the streets, but now dealers can't give it away. Number 7. Suzuki Boulevard M109R. There was a time when no other cruiser dared challenge this beast at a red light. It had the muscle, the menace, and the thunder to prove it. But in 2025, it's a completely different story, because this bike is now sitting unsold in dealerships across America. At the core of the M109R is a massive liquid-cooled V-twin engine displacing 1,783 cubic centimeters. It pumps out 128 horsepower and 118 pound-feet of torque, brutal numbers on paper. But that power means nothing when the rest of the bike hasn't evolved with the times. Despite its monstrous engine, the M109R is outdated. It lacks essential features like traction control, cornering anti-lock braking systems, and selectable ride modes. The suspension setup is basic: a telescopic fork up front and a link-type rear suspension. The brakes, while solid, are old-school dual discs without any of the refinement today's riders expect. The analog gauge cluster belongs in the early 2000s, not on a motorcycle with a modern price tag of $13,499. Fuel economy is dismal, hovering around 32 miles per gallon, and the bike's dry weight of 764 pounds makes it a challenge for everyday riding. For riders who want style and substance, the M109R has fallen behind, and it's not just Japanese muscle cruisers suffering. Italian design just took a massive hit. Number 6. Ducati Monster 937. It's thrilling to ride, stunning to look at, and quick enough to embarrass bigger bikes, but under the surface, trouble's brewing. This Italian machine might look sleek in the showroom, but on the resale market, it is one of the hardest bikes to move. Powering the monster is a liquid-cooled Testa Stretta V twin engine displacing 937 cubic centimeters. It produces 111 horsepower and 69 pound-feet of torque, plenty for carving up corners or sprinting through traffic. The bike weighs in at 414 pounds, which makes it feel sharp and responsive. Brembo brakes, adjustable forks, and multiple ride modes add to its sporting appeal. But what starts as excitement quickly fades with reality. Service intervals are short, valve inspections are expensive, and Ducati's specialized maintenance network means you pay a premium every time something needs attention. A simple routine service can cost more than $500, and electrical issues have plagued this model since its release. For many riders, those headaches outweigh the horsepower. With a starting price of $12,500, the Monster goes head-to-head with machines like the Yamaha MT-09 or the Suzuki GSX-8S, bikes that are cheaper to run, easier to maintain, and hold their value far better. In 2025, performance alone isn't enough. Riders want reliability and value, and that's where the Monster just doesn't deliver. But even this Monster looks like a safe bet compared to the next bike, a premium cruiser that's fading into total obscurity. Number 5. Indian Scout 60. This was supposed to be Indian's gateway into American cruiser culture, a smaller, stripped-down machine designed for beginners and budget-conscious riders. But in 2025, the Scout 60 has fallen far from grace. Despite the brand's heritage and the bike's clean, minimalist design, buyers are steering clear for good reason. Powering the Scout 60 is a liquid-cooled V-twin engine displacing 1,000 cubic centimeters. It produces 78 horsepower and 65 pound-feet of torque. While those numbers sound solid for an entry-level cruiser, the bike's performance doesn't translate well to real-world riding. The engine feels strained at highway speeds, and overtaking requires more effort than it should. Weighing in at 561 pounds, the Scout 60 isn't light, but it doesn't feel planted either. The suspension is basic, the ride can get rough on long trips, and the braking system lacks the confidence of more modern setups. Despite being targeted at new riders, it offers only a basic anti-lock braking system, with no ride modes, no traction control, and no digital instrumentation. Just a basic analog gauge that looks outdated by today's standards. Then there's the ownership experience. Maintenance costs are high, parts can be expensive, and many independent shops refuse to work on Indian bikes, sending owners back to the dealership for service. That means paying premium labor rates for simple work. Combined with its underwhelming resale value, the Scout 60 has become one of the worst return on investment motorcycles you can buy today. If you're looking at the Scout 60 thinking it's a shortcut into American cruiser life, think again. It may ride well for a little while, but it won't age gracefully. Now, get ready, because the next motorcycle on the list was supposed to be the future of Harley-Davidson, and it's already falling apart. Number 4. Harley-Davidson Sportster S. Harley-Davidson launched the Sportster S as a bold answer to critics who claimed the brand was falling behind. It was modern, aggressive, and loaded with tech. But fast forward to 2025 and the Sportster S has turned into a cautionary tale. It tried to be everything at once and ended up satisfying no one. The heart of the Sportster S is the Revolution Max engine, a liquid-cooled V-twin displacing 1,250 cubic centimeters. It delivers 121 horsepower and 94 pound-feet of torque numbers that easily outpace other Harleys in this size class. But with all that muscle comes compromise. The Sportster S weighs in at 502 pounds and carries a stiff, unforgiving ride. The aggressive stance and mid-controls make long-distance comfort nearly impossible. While it does include ride modes, a slipper clutch, and a full digital dash, it lacks the comfort and soul Harley riders expect. For city riding, it's overbuilt. For cruising, it's underwhelming. And then there's the price. At launch, it started around $15,000, which puts it head-to-head with bikes that offer more versatility, smoother handling, and better reliability. Even younger riders, its target demographic, are skipping it for Japanese sport nakeds or more affordable cruiser options. Despite the flashy design and strong engine, the Sportster S has not earned a loyal following. The resale value is dropping fast, and used listings are starting to flood online marketplaces as early adopters try to cut their losses. The Sportster S was supposed to be the rebirth of Harley-Davidson muscle. Instead, it's become a showroom ornament collecting dust. But even with all that disappointment, this next Harley is remembered for something worse, being completely forgettable. Number 3. Harley-Davidson Street 750 and Street 500. The Street Series was Harley-Davidson's attempt to build an urban-friendly cruiser that would appeal to new riders, commuters, and international markets. On paper, the idea made sense. A smaller, lighter, more affordable Harley, but the reality was anything but successful. The Street 750 comes with a liquid-cooled V-twin engine displacing 749 cubic centimeters, while the Street 500 uses a similar setup with a 500 cubic centimeter engine. The power output was modest. 47 horsepower for the smaller model and around 53 for the larger one. Torque figures hovered around 40 pound-feet depending on the variant. Not terrible, but definitely underwhelming. Weighing just over 500 pounds, the Streets were supposed to be nimble, but they felt awkward at slow speeds and shaky at higher ones. The suspension was budget level, the brakes lacked bite, and the finish quality was not what riders expect from Harley. Owners complained about peeling paint, cheap plastic parts, and loose fittings, even on brand new bikes. What really killed the Street lineup was its lack of identity. It didn't look like a classic Harley, it didn't ride like one either. And while it was priced lower, around $7,000 when new, it didn't offer the kind of value riders could find in a similarly priced Honda Rebel or Yamaha Bolt. Eventually, Harley pulled the plug on the Street series altogether, but there are still unsold models lingering in dealerships and used markets, and they continue to drag down the brand's reputation with every disappointing mile. If you think this lineup was a flop, just wait, because the next bike tried to rewrite Harley's legacy with batteries instead of gasoline, and it blew up in their face. Number 2. Harley-Davidson Livewire. When Harley-Davidson launched the Livewire, it was supposed to be a revolution. It had the speed, it had the tech, it had the Harley badge. But in 2025, it also has something else. Dust, lots of it, because these bikes are sitting untouched in showrooms all across America. For a brand built on rumbling V-twin engines and mechanical soul, the Livewire stripped away everything traditional Harley riders love. This electric machine produces 100 horsepower and 84 pound-feet of torque. Its acceleration is no joke. It can sprint from 0 to 60 miles per hour in just 3 seconds. But beyond that raw power, the problems start to stack up. First, there's the limited range, just 146 miles under ideal city riding conditions. Out on the highway, that number drops fast, making it a tough sell for long-distance riders. And then there's the price. When it debuted, the Livewire came in at a whopping $29,799. That's more than double the cost of many gasoline-powered cruisers with similar performance. And unlike those gas bikes, the Livewire lacks the rumble, the vibration, and the visceral connection that Harley fans crave. Even the styling, sleek and modern, feels alien to the old-school community that built the brand. Weighing in at 549 pounds, the bike handles well in traffic, but still feels oddly disconnected. There's no clutch, no gear shifting, no soul. For a younger rider looking for an electric commuter, there are better and cheaper options. For older Harley loyalists, the Livewire just never clicked. Now stick around, because the next motorcycle is one that no one expected to crash this hard. Number 1. Yamaha Bolt R-Spec. At first glance, the Yamaha Bolt R-Spec looks like a winner. It's compact, friendly, and built with classic bobber styling that hits all the right retro notes. And with a starting price of $8,699, it's one of the most affordable cruisers on the market. But in 2025, this bike has become completely obsolete, and riders are walking away in droves. The engine is a 4-stroke air-cooled V-twin displacing 942 cubic centimeters. It puts out around 53 horsepower and 59 pound-feet of torque. For newer riders, those numbers might sound decent, but when you line them up against today's competition, they fall flat. Modern rivals offer more power, better fuel economy, and updated tech, often for less money. The Bolt R-Spec still comes with an old-school 5-speed transmission, no ride modes, and a basic analog gauge setup that hasn't changed since its debut. There's no digital display, no smartphone connectivity, and no advanced safety features like cornering anti-lock braking systems. It's a bare-bones machine in a market that now expects more. The suspension consists of standard telescopic front forks and twin rear shocks, which offer a comfortable ride at low speeds but struggle on rough roads. It tips the scale at 542 pounds, which is manageable but heavier than it needs to be for the limited performance it delivers. Brakes are adequate but uninspiring. Single discs front and rear with basic anti-lock functionality. This was a great entry-level cruiser 10 years ago, but without updates, the Bolt R-Spec has lost its place. In a world full of smarter, faster, and more versatile bikes, this Yamaha just feels like yesterday's news. And that wraps up the list. These bikes may look tempting on the lot, but now you know why they're stuck there. If you want to see the best motorcycles to buy in 2025, hit that subscribe button and like this video.